Now we've just got a little dialogue to go through before we get to the final stage. This stage is the apex of RNG manipulation, both in complexity and importance. The time loss, if you mess it up early, is absurd. So for this first room, we want to kill the right amount of pantheons. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You don't need to kill those specific ones, just whatever's most convenient for you. And then we're going to Blizzack first, but we want to kick up a smoke cloud on the way up. If you jump too early and you don't kick up the cloud, it's honestly worth it to fall down and go again. Because like I said, the manipulation is so important in this stage. Blizzack's not too bad. We fight him the same way as in Find Hidden Base. The only difference is, once you get him low, wait for him to finish his Ice Beam attack. The timing's not difficult at all. Just as soon as the graphic's gone, just end the battle. You'll notice the RNG is changing rapidly while that Ice Beam's going. So in order to get a consistent value, we just let it run its entire course. Next, we're going up to Anubis. If you got hit on Blizzack, take the health on the way up. Anubis is particularly tricky, so be careful. First things first, we're just going to go up and hit him with a regular Gem Slash, and then start charging. You should have his weakness, the fire chip, equipped already. And we're going to wait for him to catch his weapon before we end the first cycle. And we'll actually be doing that for all 3 cycles. Again, timing's not precise. Just as long as he's caught his weapon, you're good. Then for this first cycle, we're going to go to the left side of the screen, so he spawns on the right. And do a charge attack here on the ground, so that it kills both zombies and hits Anubis. It needs to be a standing charge attack on the ground. The visual cue I use is like right when I get past this hill on the ground. Stand here and wait for him to become vulnerable. Do not try and do the charge attack too early, because it won't work. You've got a lot of room to work with, so just wait patiently and then attack. I think when that zombie doesn't die, it can be because you're standing too close, but I don't know the exact mechanics. It's pretty rare. Then we, again, wait for him to catch and attack him. That might have been a bit late. It is possible to be too late. That's better. And then for the next cycle, we go to the right side. Again, we'll kill the zombies, but this time we jump and charge slash. You won't actually be able to do it with a standing slash. It won't hit Anubis. And we wouldn't want to anyways. It'd have different RNG. So just stand over here, do a short hop. Easy peasy. And then again we wait. Though on that last cycle, we need to wait a little longer. The timing's more picky than in the others. So just give it a moment, and then end the fight. The reference I like to use is his weapon should be like going behind his body when you end the battle. So if I go like this, that's not good. It was still pretty far to the left. That's good though. It made it a fair distance through. Again, it's not that bad of a timing. You just need to make sure not to get impatient and go like that. Just give it a moment, then end. Next, Maha. switch to lightning, and then hold your shield as you're going through that door. It probably doesn't make a big difference, but I'm pretty sure you'll get your charge on the shield faster if you're doing that. Maha's pretty tricky. Not as hard as fighting him with spin slashes, but there are some small things that can mess you up in ways you wouldn't expect. So we're charging the shield at the start, and we're going to walk up and hit him with a slash. No need to dash or anything, since we need to wait for the shield to charge anyway. After you hit him, immediately move back to the right. If you hit him, drop down, and then go to the right, you're going to have problems. Like I said, it's a minor point, but it really makes a difference. And then once your shield's charged, you just jump up and throw it. The timing on that's not as easy as you might think. I would say throw the shield a bit earlier than you would expect. Not so early that it flies up, but it actually takes a bit for the shield to come out when you throw it, so if you wait until you're at the peak of your jump and then throw it, you'll start falling before it actually comes out, and it'll bounce off its fist. And then we move up and alternate hitting him with charge attacks. And just stay close to him while you're doing this. So that's what I meant about throwing it too late. Sometimes it'll orbit around you like that. It's pretty funny. But it's much less than ideal. If you're late on that particular attack, he can get the roll off, which is a problem. So you do need reasonably good timing with your charge attacks here. But it's not too bad. Make sure to practice it a lot, though. It's one of the easiest things to mess up on in here. Next, Hercules. Switch to the ice ship as you go through the door. Beetle guy is pretty easy. Well, it's pretty simple. I wouldn't call it easy. If you've got a good attack rhythm, though, it should be rather consistent. So you just do a full dash, no directional inputs needed, and then as you're getting in range, just stop and attack. Once he hits you, you turn and attack as he goes by on the other side. And once he's at 8 health, throw the shield for the kill. Which isn't strictly necessary, but the timing on when we end the battle is important. You want to finish him before he starts his next attack, after that second dash. So, ending the fight as quickly as possible is pretty important, and the shield is nice for that. So once he jumps up like that, then the RNG starts changing. So be quick and consistent. If he's starting to jump, you can intercept him by jumping up yourself. Interestingly, it changes to this other RNG value right when he jumps, 897, and then it goes to a third value once he actually starts his lightning attack up there. And for whatever reason, this RNG value is fine. Even though it's different than the one you would normally end with, you'll still get the same pattern on Phantom. So, it's not a huge deal if you kill him in the air like that, but if he actually gets all the way up and starts throwing lightning stuff around, then you've got problems. Alright, first 4 bosses are down. Optimally, we want to avoid that large health on the right. So, how I do it is a full hop here, and then a full wall jump off this. This room's a little tricky. We want to avoid these shots in our way. Well, reflect them with a shield. It is possible to dodge them, but in my experience it's a bit trickier. And you have to reflect that third one as you're jumping across the pit, as far as I know. And then kill the turret so you can get on the wall. When you're doing this jump here, be careful not to start holding your shield too early as you do the wall jump, or else you might kick up a smoke cloud like that. Instead, just do the jump and then start holding your shield to reflect the shot. Oh, make sure to actually get a dash when you do that wall jump. And here we just do a jump across. It's actually possible to get onto this ledge from the wall jump. It's really tricky though. I wouldn't recommend trying too hard to get it. And then we're going to Phantom. Phantom is an especially difficult boss, so be careful. First thing we're going to do is dash up to around there, jump up, and do a spin to catch him for 4 damage. Again, you'll have to refresh your spin as it's ending, so you get both hits. It's not a huge deal, like, it's only 4 damage, so if you're having trouble with it, you can just wait on the ground for him and start attacking regularly. And then we do this similar to the fight in the factory. You want to stand close enough that when you get knocked back, you'll still be able to hit him. But not too close, or else you get boosted forward when he throws the shuriken. Then we just keep hitting him until he gets out of range, go up for a jump slash, and then wait over here. You can see I'm like underneath that red rectangle in the background. That's a pretty good reference. Positioning's not super precise, but you do want to get it right, since this is a very dangerous part. As he's landing, you want to start attacking as soon as you can, and if your rhythm's right, and you start attacking at the right time, you'll interrupt this dash attack before he hits you. It's actually possible for him to kill you with that attack. Sometimes he'll just like hit you directly, and that'll only do 2 damage, but if he catches you with his sword, that will kill you from 4. So, like I said, very dangerous. And then just go up and finish him. Let me turn on the RNG real quick, since there's an important point coming up here. So check out what the RNG does here. It's going crazy. Every frame it changes due to Phantom's random shaking around. So unless you have some kind of like frame perfect way of getting through this text, you won't be able to keep RNG manipulation after this fight. So what we do instead is we just take a death from his self-destruct. It costs like 2 seconds, I think I measured, but it resets the RNG to 0. And we can work with that. A couple other things. So if you do go too close, then like I said, when he throws the shuriken, it's going to boost you forward. Not a huge deal. Just keep attacking, your iframes will last. And then you have to like go to the left before jumping up to hit him, or else you'll just jump directly into him and die. And you'll look like a goofball. So go up, get the hit. You can also stand quite a bit further away from him and still hit him as he's falling here. I don't really like it myself, just because you'll definitely get hit by the sword if he does hit you. And you have to move further forward afterwards, and you might push him out of your attack range as well. So there's a lot of small problems with that. It might be a little safer in some ways, so you can try it if you're having trouble, but I don't highly recommend it myself. And if the fight's taking too long, of course, you need to jump over the shuriken, or else it'll kill you. If you're going fast enough, you'll end the battle before he throws it, but that's not always an option. You want to be at 4 or less health at this point in order to die to the explosion. It is actually possible to get hit by the explosion twice. I've only done it once and haven't put a ton of time into figuring it out, but I'll try and work out the details and create an extra video on that. In general, though, it's not too tough to be at a low enough health to die here. At least if you've got the RNG right and everything's going according to plan. If you don't have the RNG, you might want to come into the fight with a bit more health than you would otherwise, just because Phantom has a lot of attacks that are kind of tricky to avoid if you don't know exactly what's coming. I like to go to Harpuia next. There's actually some freedom in how you do it, because Harpuia doesn't affect the RNG at all, so you can put him anywhere you want in the route, and it should be fine. But there are a few good reasons for doing it at this point. One is that Harpuia strats do a lot of damage, so if we get him out of the way now, we can pick up some health throughout the boss rush, instead of having to do it all at the end. It's also nice because before going to Fefnir, we need to kick up 2 smoke clouds total, and you can do that on the way up, but I prefer to do like 1 on this climb, 2 on this one, and then if I missed one after fighting Harpuia, I can get an extra on the way up to Fefnir. I don't really care for going for this, because if I miss it, then I'm kind of stuck up here, and you can like try and get one off this wall or go back down. It's kind of a pain. Whereas if you miss it here, you can just fight Harpuia and then get the second one on the way up. Just make sure you keep track of how many smoke clouds you kicked up on the way to Harpuia, so you can correct if needed. Harpuia is the exact same as in Rescue Kolbor. That was a pretty bad fight. I think I even took an extra hit, but it's not a huge deal. You can just pick up that large health on the way up here, and you should be alright. Fefnir's pretty much the same as Duel in the Desert, except we're going to start the fight by knocking him back to get the right pattern. If you just like go up and let him attack, things are going to be different. I'll grab you that second time. So you jump to around here. There's those 2 lines on the ground that I kind of stand on. Get a quick hit in and then just fight him regularly. Doesn't really matter when exactly you kill him. Like, you can be really fast or pretty slow and you'll still get the right RNG. As long as he doesn't start his next attack after that 3rd shockwave, you're fine. Alright, here's where things get really tricky. So, with Leviathan, she floats up and down while this dialogue's going. So exactly where she is when the fight starts will be affected by how quickly you get through the text. Now, if you just mash through the text right away as you get into the room, she's going to start up there, and she won't be in range to attack when you go up. So that's no good. Instead, we let the text go for a while, and then end it at a specific time. The reference I use is when her hand is like getting past that darkened section on the background. So around here. Clear the text, and then she starts up there. She'll drop down when the fight starts, but not low enough that we can actually attack. So what we do is we go off the edge, and since we're lower while we're over in this area, she drops further. And if you get it right, she'll be in attack range. If you spend too long over here, and she's really low down like that, then after this first attack she's going to swim upward, which is bad because you can't attack her during this time, and she also starts this attack at an inconvenient spot. So that's really bad. You want her around there with like her feet on that gray line in the background, and then she goes like along the ground and you can get a bunch more hits in. Another thing to note is that RNG gets affected by the bubbles you kick up when you dash underwater. So we dash off the ledge here, and since we're going from the exact same spot, the same distance, you'll always kick up the same amount of bubbles, so it's fine. It is possible to like end your dash early and only get 3 bubbles, so be careful not to do that. Yeah, like that. Don't do that. And then after we do the wall kick here, you go right to where you want to fight her from. Don't land on here and then dash along the ground. By the way, Leviathan herself won't be affected by the RNG. Her pattern's always the same. But we want to keep the manipulation going for copy X. So you want to be standing around here. You can be a little bit closer than where I am here, but not too much, or else you'll get boosted to the right when you get hit, which is no good. You can fit one more hit in this cycle. You can get her down to like just starting on the green bar, but for me that's really rare, at least. Then you get boosted back, take a quick step forward, start attacking again for a while, and then once she gets past you, take a tiny step to the right, turn to the left, and resume attacking. You want to do that, move forward and turn relatively late in your invincibility frames, and you also want to make sure you're standing pretty close to her attack here. The reason for this is that when she throws those icicles, there's like 2 different directions she can aim. One that's at a lower angle and one a bit steeper. We want that lower angle where all of the icicles hit like quite a ways away from the edge of the platform for RNG purposes. And again, for RNG you need to end the battle before she starts creating icicles, which is her next attack. This is probably the hardest fight, the hardest free fight at least, to do properly. Let's consider some other approaches. So here's a much easier way of setting it up. Instead of ending the dialogue around here, we're going to wait until she goes all the way up. Then, after she's started moving down a bit, around here or so, maybe a little lower, will be fine. The timing's not super precise, but you can take from this frame whatever references you want. Since this isn't the approach I normally do, I don't really know what would work for me, but like I said, timing's not too precise, so just get a feel for it and you'll get it no problem. And then she'll just start the battle at the perfect height to fight her from. So it's a lot easier because you can just go up and start attacking. You don't have to do that silliness of jumping off the wall. Now, RNG manipulation is going to be different here. Instead, what we'll do is just a single dash, no directional inputs. So you'll always move the exact same amount of distance along the ground, and conveniently it puts you at a perfect spot for fighting her from. Like a pixel or two further forward, and you'd get boosted forward when you got hit. So it works out really well. Just full length dash, you stop automatically after it's gone long enough, and then you just start attacking from there. It's also easier to get that extra hit in I mentioned, to clear the entire first health bar here. Just because you're not spending time moving around setting things up. Also, since you've gone so far forward here, make sure you don't walk very far here after you get hit. Just the tiniest little step. In fact, sometimes it's even possible to resume attacking her after getting boosted backwards without taking a step forward at all. But that requires relatively precise timing on when you start the battle, since it only works if she's really low. And again, you don't want her to be too low, or else she floats up. So, I recommend just taking a tiny step forward. And then this is the same, just get a bunch of hits in. Another tiny step forward and turn to the left. Like I said, a lot easier. I think it's like 1 or 2 seconds slower than the other method, so not really catastrophic losses. Alright, let's consider some of the ways that this fight can go wrong, because when this fight goes a little bit wrong, it can get really nasty pretty quick, so you gotta be prepared. So I mentioned the problems that can arise if you go too far forward. Let's check that out. So with this attack, she'll push you to the right off the ledge when you get hit, and that's a huge pain. Basically, we just want to wait a bit and then get up towards the center of this stage. You'll take some extra hits and lose a lot of time, but it should be pretty functional. Don't try and like wall jump back up too early after getting knocked off the edge, or else she'll generally start swimming up because things will be different. And then if you're too slow in general for any reason, she's going to start doing this attack and she'll spend a ton of time out of range. So I think it's worth pausing, equipping the fire chip, and jumping up and throwing the shield at her to bring her down faster. It adds 2 pauses to the route since you'll need to switch back to ice, but it beats having her fly around up there for like 10 seconds or whatever. Needless to say, the RNG is going to be completely wrecked if anything like this goes wrong, but cut your losses as best you can. Now, if you're going for this method and you cause her to go too low, which is also possible in the other method, just not as likely, then, as I mentioned, she's gonna swim up like that, and normally when she comes down at this point, she'll stop at a location where you can't actually attack her. But what you can do is, similar to how we start the fight, you can go over the ledge here and cause her to drop lower. It's relatively advanced tech, and you've got to get the timing right in order for it to actually accomplish anything. But it can get you a lot of extra damage in compared to if you just had to wait through this entire attack. And again, we'll have to stop that attack. And she has a tendency to be out of range when she floats down here, so you could try and do the same thing. I don't know exactly what the timing would be. I haven't experimented with it too much, but it's an idea at least. If you can't reach, then you'll just have to wait. Alright. That's about all I've got for Leviathan. Let's move on. So, there's a few different RNGs you'll be ending with here, based on which approach you take to the fight. I'll go over the manipulations for the other things you can be coming out of here with later. First thing we'll want to do is kick up a smoke cloud on the way out here. You can choose whether or not you want that health. It's not needed though, so you can save like half a second skipping it. It's actually kind of tricky to get that smoke cloud and jump over the energy capsule. But with some practice, you can get it. Start charging, and we'll take out this guy as we jump through it. You shouldn't drop anything. Fall straight down there. Jump across and kick up a smoke cloud here. Let's look at that once more. So kill him, and then you just dash off this ledge, no directional input, drop down, and then go underneath that one. One smoke cloud here. If you miss it, there are some other wall climbs later in the section. You can get at those. Then we want to kill 2 of these pantheons. So I hit one as I'm coming up, and then the second as I jump over. So that one as I clear the edge, and then just jump through like that. Kill both. No, just one of those turrets, sorry. Now here's a tricky spot. You can jump up and catch this corner just barely. The reference I use is like that line that like my feet are going over. Right around here. You can do the jump. You might have more luck if you go further forward and then turn into the wall instead of trying to get it with like continuous movement like that. If you want to make it even easier, you can stand directly underneath the wall and then just jump straight up. It'll be slower, of course, but a little easier in my experience. Or you can just go off the right wall and kill that turret. If you do that, so you kill 2 turrets total in that section, then you would kill 1 less up here. So normally I kill both up here. You would just skip one of them if you killed an extra down here. So 1 pantheon, both turrets up here. So I mentioned earlier that the RNG can get messed up based on the angle she fires the ice circle at. Let's look at that. So if we're standing relatively far away from her like this, like you can see, I could definitely walk forward a step or 2 without getting hit. Maybe just 1 step. The spacing's kind of precise. She'll actually fire it at a different angle and you'll end up getting a different RNG. You won't necessarily be able to tell very easily during the fight. Like there's not a huge difference between them. But we'll be able to tell later. So we do the same, kick up 1 smoke cloud out here. Kill this guy. And he's going to drop small energy if you're on this RNG, as opposed to if you got the pattern I normally go for, the one I showed before, where he drops nothing. Conveniently, we don't have to change our route very much for this manipulation. Basically, we just need to kill 1 extra pantheon. You could kill an extra pantheon over here. You could kill this third guy. If you do that, the next the turret after the next that you kill will drop health, which can be kind of inconvenient since it'll be the one on the tricky wall climb, and that will really throw you off if you're not at full. So I just kill those two like normal. That way this guy drops energy instead of health, and then take the extra pantheon kill up here. So I just kill that turret and then turn real quick to get that guy. And you'll have this 2537. That's what you want. There's a slightly different approach you can take. You could kill the third pantheon here and then change which turrets you're killing so that the one that drops health won't drop it on top of you. I'll show that off now. So a lot of times it doesn't really matter the order in which you do things for RNG manipulation, as long as you do the right things total. So we can change like which pantheons and which turrets we're killing, and it shouldn't be a problem. So we can kill all three of those. That way we've already got the extra pantheon kill in for this backup. And then we can choose to kill this turret, which I normally don't do, but is perfectly acceptable. And then that guy will drop the health in an out-of-the-way location, so you don't have to worry about it. Then that guy drops energy, no problem. And then you just skip one of these two turrets. If you take the slower climb below this area, and you have to kill both of the turrets down there, then you would just skip both of them up here, as long as the total amount that you kill is the same. I prefer to skip that one because it doesn't really, like, you don't have to change the way you move or do anything. You just have to not hit the saber button as you go past them. If you skip this guy, you actually need to like not move forward as early, or else you risk hitting him. But you'll see, I'm getting here with the same RNG value, even though specifically which pantheons and turrets I killed was different, as long as the total amount is the same. That's all that really matters in most situations. There are some cases where the order of RNG manipulations does matter, but this is not one of them. Alright, let's look at the RNG manipulation for if you take the easier Leviathan strat, which have time to be about 1.5 seconds slower. I'll also look at a few other different things in the room after this that can apply to all strats. One thing to note there, if you're fighting like this, it is actually possible to end the fight too early. So make sure to wait until she's finished throwing that ice circle and it's hit the ground before ending the battle, if you are going that fast. So we'll kick up one smoke cloud. Just one though. We're not going to kick up the other one over here. So no smoke there. And we've got to kill a lot of pantheons. So we'll kill all three of these. Let's look at if you take the easier climb up here, instead of going for the relatively tricky jump onto that corner. I like to take this guy out with a charge slash as I'm going by, just so he's not in my way later. And then you can go underneath these two shots and jump up and hit this guy. It's a little tricky still to do optimally, but it's not as difficult as going up to the corner. And you can take it relatively slow if you have to. Then you can just jump across. Now this pantheon's going to be in our way like this, because we won't be in a good position to jump all the way across onto that next ledge. We won't be high enough up, and that spike thing's going to be in the way. So instead we're just going to go up onto this ledge and kill that pantheon. So we've killed 4 pantheons total so far, a 5th here, and 1 extra turret. So it's 1 smoke cloud total, 5 pantheons and 4 turrets killed with this manipulation. And you want to be ending at 3067, like that. Two quick notes about this particular manipulation. You'll notice I get the health here. That's because some of the enemies you kill are going to drop health on these RNG values, so it's better to just get healed there when you're expecting it, and not while you're trying to do some platforming. Another thing is that if you take the fast route here, that Pantheon is not going to be conveniently available for hitting, so instead we need to kill 2 of the ones over here, which is a little bit tricky. The way I do it is I dash further forward, jump up, so I hit both of them, and then you won't be able to reflect that shot. It's too far above you, so you just move forward and jump in between the shot and the Pantheon, which might look kind of tricky, and it is, but it's not too bad. If you aim your attack really well, you can hit both Pantheons simultaneously, and that way you would only get 1 instance of hit lag instead of 2. Alright, let's talk about the fight with X. There will be some slight differences based on which RNG route you've taken up to this point, but the basic features of the battle are the same, so I'll just cover those first, and then worry about the small differences later. Because of the knockback he receives, it's possible to combo X if you get him up against the wall. And that can allow for some really fast kills. The manipulations are all about causing him to do that Nova Strike at the beginning to go to the wall. By the way, you have to dash underneath it, otherwise your hitbox is too tall and you'll get hit. So you just go under, turn around, and start attacking. If you combo him for too long, he will break out of it with a Nova Strike like that. It is possible to reset the combo without letting him escape, and that will allow you to infinite him if you can do that twice. Each time it's frame perfect though, so that's a bit tricky. The key is to hit him like right as he's about to touch the ground after you stop comboing him, like that. You also need to have a pretty good rhythm, or else you'll just drop him unintentionally. If you're attacking too fast, then you risk like him being in iframes and your attack just not hitting, and that will pretty much always drop him because you spend a lot of time not doing an attack. If you're too slow, it's not as bad within reason, but if you are really slow, you won't be like holding him at the wall. He'll have time to hit the ground. Now there are some, well, there's one other way of restarting the combo. If he does that sliding attack along the ground, you actually have some time while he's setting it up where it's possible to start a new combo, and it's not frame perfect. It's a lot easier. In order to be able to do that, you need to be relatively far away from him though, or else you'll get hit too early like that. So the spacing's pretty precise, but the timing's a lot easier. So around there should be fine. So I let him hit the ground, and then you start attacking like after he does that little hop. There's a different move he will try and get away from the wall with, where he just like jumps out entirely. If he does that, you can't restart the combo without getting the frame perfect. A really nice thing about this particular RNG manipulation, a reminder, this is the one where we did the easier strats on Leviathan, is X will actually try and slide away 3 consecutive times. So you don't even need to be good. You can just catch him out of the slides every time. It still takes some skill, but one cycling like this is so much easier than trying to get the frame perfects. Now this RNG is the one where we did the faster Leviathan strats, but kind of messed it up, and did the backup, where we saw the small energy drop from the little floaty guy at the start of the previous room. A reminder that bad RNG is caused by being too far to the right when Leviathan throws her ice circle. It starts out the same, but he goes for the jump out instead of the slide, so it's quite a bit worse, because you have to get the frame perfect to reset the combo. I have a bad habit of getting the frame perfect and then dropping the combo immediately afterwards. Not entirely sure what's up with that. Just something wrong with my rhythm. If he does the Nova Strike, that means you went for it too early and hit him in the combo too many times. And then if he jumps out, it means you were too late. So it's still possible to get a really good fight like that, but it's way harder. It will always be faster to do that than catching him out of the slides though, so it can still be in your interest to go for the frame perfect reset, even if you have an RNG where he's going to slide. But you need to be very careful not to go too early, because if you trigger the Nova Strike, he's getting out no matter what, and you've lost any advantage you had from the slides. So aim towards being a bit too late on the frame perfect rather than too early if you can. Or just don't go for the frame perfects at all and be lame. That's always an option. Speaking of that, there is a different way of doing this fight, where you don't go for any combo resets at all. I don't really recommend it, but I guess I'll show it off. That was weird. So once he breaks out, you just throw your shield, and you'll see I did more than half of his health bar thanks to the extra damage from the shield. So you can just get 2 combos like that and clear the fight. Normally if you mess up the resets each time, then he's going to take 3 cycles of attacks to finish off. Whereas if you do those shield throws, it only takes the 2. But you can only go for that if you deliberately forego the ability to reset the combo. It's not an option to go for both. Here's the fight with the manipulation for fast Leviathan fight, and you do the manipulation correctly, which means you're standing close enough to her, you get the right RNG value, and the guy floating back and forth in the previous room does not drop anything. For this RNG, he will try and slide once, and then jump the second time you drop the combo. So you can get one relatively easy reset, but not the second. So to one cycle him, you need to get at least 1 frame perfect with this RNG. So overall, the best X pattern comes from doing the safe strats on Leviathan, where you just wait longer in the dialogue and then slide or dash along the ground at the beginning of that fight. So that route becomes easier twice, but again it costs 1.5 seconds or so on the Leviathan fight. If you get here without any RNG manipulation to speak of, you can really get frigged over by bad RNG. Generally, we're just gonna like wait for him to come to the wall so we can start the fight regularly, which can take a long time if he's in a bad mood, but it's generally better than trying to chase him around the room like this, which can be awfully inefficient. So just kind of hang out over here. Normally he'll fly over pretty early. Sometimes he'll get like really close to you and it's kind of dangerous. You probably should come in here at full health or close to it if you're not going to have RNG manipulation or think you might mess it up. So grab the health after Leviathan if you're not entirely confident. Some of his attacks can be a bit tricky to dodge. I don't even know what the deal is with those things. Silly lightning orbs or some such. Alright, let's take a closer look at the frame perfect combo resets and then move on. So it's this frame. You can take from that whatever visual cues you want, but this is where you start your next attack. It might vary like a few pixels in either direction based on exactly where you dropped him from. It might also matter how close you are, but I don't think so because I'm pretty sure the hitbox extends equally fast to all locations at the start. Normally I compare the bottom of his feet to the bottom of my equipment slot there. But yeah, whatever is clear to you to look at. Oh, I missed it the second time. Should look the same, but let's double check. Yeah, pretty much the same, like right as his foot is getting past the saber icon. Just give him a good bop. And that's the hard stuff out of the way. Seraph X is relatively easy once you get some practice in. By the way, you should already have the ice chip equipped, because that's its weakness, and we're going to be using it. So there's only 3 things that Seraph X can do, and none of them are too threatening. He's always going to start off with this like ring attack that just kind of traps you. If you do get caught, just smash out of it. I like to start the fight by doing a buffered dash attack to the right, just because I want to start charging, and it puts me in a consistent spot. That's not real important, you can basically do whatever you want. But once he's far enough into this cycle, you'll want to go up for a charge slash. The reference I use is like in between the first 2 rings that he shoots up, maybe closer to the second. It's when I go over to that wall and jump off with my charge slash. And then I just kind of like wait here for a while. And this last ring is the only one that will really be in the way. So I just go over to the wall before it catches me. Oops. And then just get another charge hit in. Now, at some point you're going to want to do a regular jump slash instead of a charge, because the number of hits will end up being the same amount, just because of how much damage gets done. And it's obviously faster than doing a whole charge. So you can fit it in anywhere you want, just don't put it immediately after one of the ring cycles, because you you get free time to charge during those anyways, so it'd be silly not to do a charged attack. Normally I go like right back to the wall after that one, hit him with a jump slash, and then collide with his body, since a lot of times he'll be doing an attack right as I am hitting him. If you collide with his body, it only does 1 damage, which is absurd. Like, it would take so long to die off that, and you get 90 frames of invincibility. So anytime you think you're like even in the slightest risk of being hit by one of his attacks, just bump into him while you're hitting him. His actual attacks do quite a bit of damage. I think it's 4 from the light beams and 5 from the fire, so definitely take that hit for 1 over the others. Yeah, I missed the jump slash there, so you can see he still had 4 health. The timing on that can be a little tight based on when he's attacking, but just figure out what works for you. If you approach him from like higher above, you're less likely to get hit by his light rays as you're going for that jump slash. So that's something handy to keep in mind. And then just get the timing down for when his high frames are running out. If those were too early, that was just right. And then he'll do 1 more ring cycle before the end. You won't be able to go in for the attack right away. Well, sometimes it works. I don't know exactly what the deal is with his hitbox though. Most of the time if you go right away, it's no good. So I normally wait a little bit and then go for the attack. There's not really any visual indication that things are different, but for some reason if you wait a bit, your attack will land, and if you don't, it won't. So just get used to that timing. Better to go too late than too early, because it's silly to waste your entire charge like that and have to spend multiple seconds getting a new one. It's also important to keep track of where these platforms are, the floating ones on the sides, since if they are at their peak, you won't be able to jump up and reach it. So keep track of which one's going to be available. Normally I go for like 2 attacks from each side. Like I start with 2 attacks on the left side, then 2 attacks on the right side, and then I end on the left side. So that's it for going fast, but there is still one more thing I have to show you. If you're on the very edge of that platform as you lose control, it will teleport you into your final location for this cutscene. I have no idea why, but it's definitely pretty amazing, so I highly recommend going for it. There's a handy setup where if you do a full dash jump off of one of those side platforms, it puts you in exactly the right spot to get it. Only problem with that is it's on the left side, and the left side's relatively boring since you only teleport a short distance. So if you're feeling especially daring, you can just like try and set it up on the right side and aim it manually. Generally, that platform will be too far to reach, though depending on exactly how the fight goes, that won't always be the case. Most of the time you'll just have to aim it manually. Try not to die after clearing the speedrun, though because of the way timing works for this game, that wouldn't necessarily be a problem. Basically, time stops when you lose control in this cutscene. Like at some point, you just stop being able to do stuff and 0 runs to this spot, and that's when time ends. Now, if you're over the pit when that happens, that wasn't a good demonstration. Yeah, you see I'll just like stopped moving to the side and fell straight down. in theory, the speed run's over at that point. It doesn't matter that you died. You can even check your in-game time by retry, and then pause right as you gain control. It'll be pretty accurate. I wouldn't highly recommend that, just because, like, I don't know, some people might question the legitimacy of the run if you didn't actually, like, get to the credits and whatnot. Personally, I wouldn't care. I'd be fine with such a speed run, but exercise caution when dying after clearing X. If you want to be really stylish, you can try and fall onto the teleport spot like that. That'll pretty much get you maximum style points for sure. But you can also just walk there. It's a lot easier. You still get a cool teleport, but it's definitely not on the same level as something like that. Alright, that's it for the main content of the guide. There will be some other added videos for new strats that get found or stuff I want to expand on, but that's pretty much it. I want to give shout outs to Rollman1, the Tasser. I took a lot of stuff from his Hull Mission Stas. I'll have a link to it in the description. Also, the runners of the game who came before me, Kuraban and Darko most notably. A lot of the fundamental principles of running this game I got from watching their runs. By the way, with the credits here, they're going to go absurdly slow unless you've already cleared the game once. I'm not sure if you need to actually have a saved game of a clear file, or if you just need to have B in it. But if you do have that, you can just skip through it really quick. I've never actually gotten a perfect tile of this stage, just because it's really boring to run in my opinion, since like there's so much downtime when you're talking to the bosses each fight. And it's a fun stage when you get to it in an actual run, but grinding out ILs of it has never been too interesting to me. You can definitely get sub 3 minutes though. In fact, I think you can get like 2:45 or thereabouts with a really good run. And then to check your in-game time, select the first option here to save, the first option to overwrite if you're saving over something, and then second option to continue. 1941. Later.